There are a lot of people who assume that sustainability is just about the environment and we just want you to save all the animals and not harm plants and everything like that. But it's actually about we need to improve our economic efficiency and use our resources appropriately, or we're not going to survive. Like, it's just not possible to keep going on the way we are. A lot of people, if you say sustainability, they think like, oh, you're a tree hugger. But it's not the case. Sustainability literally means like we need to balance our use of the environment with our economic growth and our social needs, and that basically just make sure that we're balancing people, planet, and profit so that we can survive.
I think especially like the idea of urban farms is super important because there's a lot of food deserts around that I think that issue is like way underrepresented because I didn't know about it until I started learning about urban farms, but that like having fresh produce in a city is super important.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, we want to create healthier communities through food and farming, and we think that urban farms are really a great vehicle to do that. They're in urban neighborhoods where traditionally you're not seeing produce grown, and so they're great kind of exposure in that sense. And we've also been in neighborhoods that traditionally don't have a lot of fresh food access. So, you know, we really want to provide increased access to fresh food as well as those educational opportunities for people to come out and experience what it means to grow your own food or experience where food comes from. A little bit spicier than what you might get in the store. I don't know if you... First radish.
Well, yeah, spicy.
Yeah, a nice kick to it at the end.
Mm-hmm. I would also say, like, we're seeing our population just skyrocket. If we're going to feed all of the people that are going to be in the world, then we kind of need to learn to use our land efficiently. And then the whole organic side of it is we need to move towards agriculture that doesn't, you know, cause pollution or runoff and affect the environment in other ways. So I think things like this are really important. And like you said, they help with food deserts and things like that too.
We see sustainable communities as being communities that are healthy and have access to fresh foods. So we see things like the farm stand and us contributing to people's awareness of fresh foods as really important to that. And then from an environmental standpoint, I think just in general having more food that is grown with environmental conservation in mind is really beneficial to our food system and as a whole.
I don't think a lot of people get the opportunity to learn about these issues the way that we do. And I think you can kind of see that in like the current feel of our country right now. There are a lot of people who are super pro-environmentalism, and there are a lot of people who just kind of flat out deny the science, but I think it's just because they haven't gotten the opportunity to like really understand it. It's definitely discouraging, but I'd say like there's a negative side and a positive side to it. So the negative side, I think, is that there are a lot of organizations and a lot of people who maybe if they were starting to care about sustainability or environmentalism, they aren't now because they think like, oh, the administration doesn't support it, there's no benefit to us caring. But I think the other side of it is there are students like us who still really believe that this is an issue, and when you see people making these just ridiculous statements about environmental science and climate change, like that's what's motivating more people to go out and get involved. And I think that's just a really big thing because the United States has a really low like voter turnout and kind of level of care when it comes to politics, but now you're starting to see a lot more young people get really involved and care about those issues.
Recycling, not only recycling but knowing what to recycle is important, and just like simply like educating yourself like what you can recycle and where to recycle is so important because a lot of people don't take that step because like it takes effort to do that.
And I've learned a lot about like our transportation emissions. That's an environmental problem, but it's also just a public health problem. So I think like educating people on how they can be more sustainable in their transportation, like maybe not driving if it only is like a 5-minute drive, or like switching to an electric car or biking, public transportation, stuff like that. I think that there's still a really big pushback against it. Like we were talking about this in one of our classes the other day. There's an organization that sent like 200,000 anti-climate change pamphlets to like middle school teachers across the country, like telling them not to believe scientists, and like things like that I think are a huge problem. Like that's just unheard of. So I think like the education on sustainability needs to be brought up, and I think it needs to be shifted towards like it's not just about the environment. Like we learn it's about like we won't survive. There are like whole communities that like absolutely hate the idea of environmentalism and renewable energy, but they don't understand that it's not like a personal vendetta against them or anything. It's literally just like the economics of sustainability are making it so that it's better to be renewable, and then it's also better to be renewable socially and environmentally, but they just like really hate the idea because they're losing their livelihoods. So I think it varies widely like across the world. The United States is obviously very large, so we have a lot of different cultures represented, and I think the issue is just really misportrayed here, because if we don't use our resources effectively, then right now we're growing at an unsustainable economic rate. So it's all good right now, but in the future we won't be sustainable.